Hello, it's Mary from Imaginary's Creations. Today I'm going to show you how to make a ornament for Halloween. Now mine turned out to be a cat, but it also looks like a bat. It can be anything you want it to be, I suppose, but today I'm going to show you how to make this little guy. You could also make a skeleton if you wanted to. He's a little bit creepy, isn't he? He's got some weird teeth going on there. So your choice, you can make this ornament anything you want, but today I'm going to show you the cat. So we're starting off with, I believe this is a 2-inch styrofoam ball, and I'm going to make a loop in it ahead of time. This will be for hanging, and all I do is I take a piece of wire and cut probably, I'm going to say that's about 3 inches. I'm going to slightly bend it in the center. I'm going to take this dowel and I'm going to wrap it around. And again, I apologize about my hands. They are not the best. And I'm just going to twist and twist and twist and twist and twist until I get something that resembles a hanger. Now I'll straighten it out a little bit, and then I like to put up my ends like this so that when I glue it into the ornament it actually kind of stays, almost like a barbed hook. So now I take this ball and I'm just going to put a little indentation in it to start with. I will take I use Quick Dry Tacky Glue by Aleene's as my pretty much all-around glue. I use that a lot. And I'm just going to stick some in there, kind of fill that hole up with some glue. Then I will take my little barbed piece hook here that I made and stick it in and push it all the way down, and there you have the starting of your ornament hanger. Now as you can see, I've rolled out my paper clay to about 1/8 of an inch thick. I'm now going to dip my clay in some water. I'm going to place it over the ring, the hanging ring that I've made, and I'm going to bring the clay around and start smoothing it down till it all meets. For expediency's sake, I'm going to be using an oven today. I use my standard kitchen oven, 250 degrees, and a lot of you might have heard that you can't cook these with the styrene or styrofoam balls inside, that you can't cook paper clay. Well, that's not true. You might get some cracking, some residual cracking, but that can be fixed later with a little bit of a patching method. Also, you don't really need to worry about the toxic fumes of melting plastic bothering you, because as you can see, this is totally encapsulated by the paper clay. Very few, if any, vapors or harmful vapors are going to get out. And secondly, at 250 degrees, the styrene or styrofoam ball is not going to melt. Any higher and it probably would. And over a long period of time, it might compact a little bit. But for this project, I'm just going to use a 250-degree oven, again, as I said, and I'm going to cook this for about probably an hour. And then I will come out with something that looks like this. It's all dry, and it's ready to work on. I'm going to make the face now, and I've moistened the surface a little bit, and I'm going to poke some holes for the eyes that I'll be using. Just like so, and I just used the end of a paintbrush. So that's the location of my eyes. I will put those in later, but I'll just show you how it looks. Right now, I'm going to make the face parts. Moisten the surface a little bit. I've got two little balls of clay here, about almost an inch in size, and I'm going to use these as the cheeks per se. And I will just place one on there like so, and then I'm just going to start attaching it. And just getting a rough look right now, but there's one cheek. Using the other ball, I'll put the other cheek on and attach it as well. I don't want to cover up those holes that I've made for the eyes. Check my placement, and then I start doing some fine work on it. Add some more water to it, and then I use my trusty tool here, which is just a kitchen knife, and I will start shaping it and getting it flared on there, smoothed in. And then I'll continue shaping with my thumbs until it's done. You work with it until you're satisfied with the shape. I'm fairly happy with how that shape is right now. And I'm going to take another ball of clay. This is about a 1/2 inch piece. And I'm going to shape it into a little cat nose. Now you want to bring that right into the center here, and then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to start smoothing it and attaching it and molding it into, or fusing it into, the rest of it around it. That's real basic, but I will smooth it out and you'll see a difference in a minute. Now I've got mine smoothed out a little bit, and granted that nose is a little big, but I kind of like to do cartoonish type characters, so I'm going to keep it like this, and then I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to bring that crease down that cats have, and I'm going to separate just a little bit so you've got that part that shows there's a demarcation between the cheeks and where the mouth is, like so. And then just kind of work it out. For the mouth, I'm going to use another piece. It's about an inch round of a ball of clay, and I'm going to use my thumb to imprint on it to give it a little bit of a concave part right there. I'm going to stick it on right here, and then I'm going to proceed to mold and get this part integrated into the rest of the face. I've gotten this to a point that I like it, and right about now is when I'm going to stick it in the oven and cure it for about half an hour. Half an hour is going to give me a nice crust on here, but I can then continue working. So off to the oven it goes. We're out of the oven now, and I'm going to make the ears. Again, I've got about a 1-inch ball of clay here, and I want to wet the surface where the ears are going to go. And I will take one of these little balls of clay and kind of shape it in a triangle, leaving it kind of fat, and then concaving and curving it just a little bit. And then I will stick it where I believe ears go for a kitty cat. I'm going to start incorporating that into my piece and move on to the next ear. Now you can make these as big as you want if you like caricatures, or as tiny as you want. I could pull off some excess there if I wanted to. Make it just a little bit smaller. You can round them, turn this into a lion, turn it into a teddy bear, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to make a kitty cat. So we're going to move on to the next ear. Alrighty, I've got both ears on. Kind of looks like a cat, a cartoon cat. I'm going to go stick this in the oven for about a half an hour again. And when we come back, I'm going to show you a really neat technique for making hair. It's going to be a bit tedious, and some of you will probably not want to do it. And you can leave your cat like this if you want and paint hair on later. But when we come back, I will show you a really cool technique. As you can see, I've drawn a line around the head where hair placement is going to be. But before I get with the hair, I'm going to glue my eyes in. Put some glue in those holes that I already made. And I'm going to take the eyes and push them in. Now the eyes are in, and I only have one thing to say about keeping these eyes the way they are. I have to let that eyelids air dry, and I have to let all the hair air dry if I want to keep these eyes nice and clear. I am not worried about them getting all fogged up in the oven because I'm going to paint over them like I did in this one. So they are there basically for the shape. And next I'm going to do the eyelids. To do the eyes, I've got two more little balls of clay. They're about a half an inch in diameter. And what I'm going to do is kind of smash that ball into a round disc. And then I'm going to take my knife and just cut it in half. So now I have, now I have 2 halves of a hole. I'm going to moisten around the eyes, And I'm going to take one and go over the top of the eye like so and blend it in. And I have the brow of one eye. Now we'll take the other one and do the same thing on the other side. I know it's real quiet here. I wish I had some music on, but then you wouldn't be able to hear me. However, when I am crafting, which is pretty much every day, I listen to music all day long. It keeps me going. As you can see, I have both eyes done now, both the tops and the bottoms of the eyes. And I am going to go set this in the oven for about half an hour and let it crust up the features pretty good, because once I start to put the fur on, I don't want to mess up any of this. And again, these eyes, because they're plastic, they will get cloudy in the oven. I'm not real worried about that because I plan to paint over them anyways. However, if you want to air dry your piece, you can keep the eyes as they are, and they're pretty cool just the way they are too. Now we're on to the fur. I still have some pencil lines here showing the areas where my fur is going to be on here. I will be using a garlic press, a spray bottle of water. I've got some extra clay here, and I'm using the top of a ball mason jar as my stabilizer for the cat head. And I need a very, very sharp X-Acto knife. You want to put a brand new blade in there. You're going to need that for when you get to attaching the fur. So I moisten an area that I'm going to work on first, and I'll work in batches because I can't put all the fur on at the same time and still have it sit without some of the fur getting smushed. So I have to work in patches or batches, and that's what I'll be doing. But to start off, you get your clay in your garlic press and you press out a little bit, just about, oh, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or so. And then I use my knife blade and I scrape across the top here. And it gives me this really neat little cluster of fur. Now I'm going to just be very careful here and gently smush the bottom together. That kind of helps keep them together in a clump. I'm going to dip it in my bucket of water, and then I'm going to place it on the head, just like that. And now I want it to stay, so I'm going to go in with my very, very sharp tip, and I'm just going to poke certain areas down. It's almost like you're rooting it. I'm not going to do all of them. I don't need to worry about all of them, because the clay, being as moist as it is going to create a sort of a glue, but I want to make sure that I've got them fairly tacked down. So we're starting with that. And it's a very tedious process, so you've got to really like doing this and playing with the clay, but it's an awesome way to get what you would call fur or little nubbies. And this can be used for many different animals. You can use this on dogs when you're creating dogs, or you can use it for porcupine quills. You can use it for quite a number of animals to get fur look on your paper clay. And I'm only going to do a little area at a time, and then I will cook it in between. And that way I don't damage those that I've done previously. Now I'm trying to be very careful, and I do have really bad hands. They shake a lot and they don't do what I like them to do. So it makes it quite a challenge for me. But if I can do it, you most certainly can do it. So you might want to give this a try, even if you want to just do it in little spots. And if you make people, it's another fun way to do hair on their heads. I've gotten to a point where I really don't want to take the chance of smashing it too much. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven for about half an hour. We're out of the oven, and as you can see, if you look real close here, the eyes have clouded a little bit. They're not as shiny as they once were. And that's what I mean by them getting kind of hazy from being in the oven. So you can still see them, but you can use other methods like maybe some crystal 3D lacquer to make them sparkle again, or you can paint over them just like I did. And as you see, the hair is really in place, even though I just did little touches with my sharp knife point. When you wet the surface and you add the wet clay to it, it creates a really good bond. I'm going to finish up by putting some more of the fur in this area, and I'll do 3 other sections at a time and dry in between those. And when I'm done, we'll come back and we'll see how he looks covered with hair. As you can see, I've gotten quite a bit done here. And in just a moment here, I'll be taking it to the oven to dry. But by just placing it on here and doing a little bit of tacking with a very sharp blade, it's creating a bond. So as you can see, I've done this whole area here, and I'm going to go have it dry in the oven for a little bit, and then I'll do another area, and then I'll finish off with the last bit. After about an hour and a half to 2 hours of doing all of the fur on here, we now have a completed cat ready to be painted. I like to use gesso as a base on my clay pieces just because it makes the acrylic paints brighter and more true, but you don't have to gesso it. Another reason I would gesso it is to add an extra layer of stability for these hair pieces. Even though they're not coming off, you can guarantee that more by using gesso as an undercoating. So now it's ready for painting. I'm not going to go through the painting process because that's individual and up to you, but here shows a finished piece ready to be painted. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I'd love to hear about whatever creatures you do decide to make, and hopefully you'll have a good time doing this. Thank you very much.